I'm Richard Edlin, visual effects supervisor on Species, the original.
Frank Mancuso, co-producer.
I'm Roger Donaldson, the director.
Hi, I'm Steve Johnson. I design the prosthetic and animatronic effects.
I remember how we did this shot. We hired some guy down in Australia, didn't we?
That's right.
Remember?
That's right. Yeah.
And this was a time exposure done over the course of a series of nights.
So this is an actual star field with the camera panning along.
Yeah, keeping track with them and
Earth's movement.
Wow, that's very cool. That would be done 100% digitally these days, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you wouldn't be doing that like this, but this is for real. And the pan down, which goes down onto the observatory, is all for real.
It's kind of funny seeing the cast and what's become of them since we put them in this movie. I mean, we really were fortunate to get the people that we
Michelle
were in
Williams,
this movie.
yeah.
Marg's doing real good these
Marg
days.
Helgenberg, Alfred Molina.
Right.
Natasha's become an event in of herself.
Yeah. And of course, that old pool shark.
Yeah, we just worked with
Forrest
Alfred,
Whitaker.
turned him into Dr. Octopus,
Yeah.
attached him to 28 puppeteers on a daily basis.
You can see this shot here. See how we had to mat it so it turned into daylight, I think, didn't we? Steve Johnson.
Yeah, but it really is true. I mean, it's so much more dense and beautiful the way that we did it, I think, rather than if somebody would have done this all digitally.
That's right.
Well, this was the dawn of the digital age roundabout here. I mean,
That's right.
Chris Young, who did a fabulous score for this movie, actually.
Yeah.
It really was one of the first movies, I guess, that was doing motion capture, wasn't it?
Well, owing to your style of directing, we decided that to try to approach it with keyframe animation would be a dangerous approach because it doesn't enable you to make changes easily. So we developed a whole kind of a digital puppet that you could direct, and you could get the scene that you wanted,
Yeah.
like it was an actor. So that was like the first time that was done in real time.
This location is actually a real location, Arecibo in Puerto Rico, and I remember us flying around here in a helicopter shooting this sequence. Did you go down there?
No, I didn't go down there. So.
It's pretty impressive, as you can see the scale of it. It's this monumental radio telescope, the biggest one in the world.
I mean, the origins of this was Dennis Feldman wrote this as a spec screenplay, and he and I were working on something else, and I was fortunate enough to read the script and acquire it for MGM at the time.
I always thought that was such a good idea that the fact that we were sending out this information might have been used badly.
Yeah, well, of course
Brilliant.
it's true. There is this project SETI, and they have been over, I think, for a period of about 50 years, sending messages out into deep space by the radio telescopes, and who knows, one day that information may come back to haunt us.
Exactly.
Well, what was that movie they did? Where they, it was like the Star Trek folks. I'm sorry,
Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest. Right. They thought all those sitcoms were actual scenes happening in the world.
Getting Ben Kingsley in the movie really sort of legitimized, the conceptual conceit of the movie, and it sort of elevated it, along with getting Roger and the rest of the cast that we got. I mean, we were able to sort of amass a team of people that sort of elevated it beyond a typical genre type movie, which I think really sort of helped us from a profile from the very beginning. getting Giger, getting Richard Edlund, getting Steve Johnson, and the cast that we got, Roger sort of was able to sort of work with a level of people that, probably he wouldn't have otherwise been able to get. So I'm thankful that we got Roger and he was able to get those people.
I think my approach to the film was to treat it like it was deadly serious and make it as real as possible. At the same time, I liked its sort of sense of humor, and it didn't take itself too seriously. So you put those two things together, and I think that's one of the things that sort of made it work.
This is Michelle Williams, and I don't know how much she had done before this, but she was certainly accomplished. And she's gone on to be pretty popular in Dawson's Creek and everything.
Really talented woman.
And it was Natasha's screen debut.
That's right. That's right. I mean, part of the grace of this movie is the confliction that the Fitch character feels, and it's kind of neat that all through the movie you're never really sure what he's really thinking. If he's happy about this, if he's not happy about this, about what's going on. It's part of the thing that sort of sets the movie apart from others.
We shot this sequence in Seal Beach, which was a location where I believe they built some of the rockets that some of the first moon rockets were constructed at this location.
Yeah, I remember the spaces being huge. You could never find sound stages that big. They were just monstrous.
This location in Utah.
Yeah, that's right.
And we used these flares and the helicopters and everything to really light the scene.
You're looking at vast spaces of nothing, and so you couldn't exactly put arcs out in the middle of it. And Andre, I think, came up with this idea, these flares, and it really worked well.
The dream sequence.
Now, Steve, I think this is your work, right?
Yeah, we shot that stuff underwater.
Cloud tank.
The whole idea was to put a lot of appendages on them so that it kind of confused the viewer and broke up the human shape, which is something Giger used to always do, specifically with Alien, the pipes coming off the back, the long head, the tail. So I don't think it's real obvious that there are people in suits in that.
I think the cloud tank was your idea.
Well,
Richard.
yeah, I mean, one of the things about this is that she was going to be somewhat translucent, transparent, and that was what led us to create the whole creature. Once Mike Hosh did the body, and who was it that did the face? Was it Mike?
No, Norman Cabrera sculpted the head.
But I still have that, by the way, sculpture. But anyway, we created a very high-resolution creatures so we could get up real close to her. And I think we were about 10 times her database was like 10 or 20 or 100 times bigger than the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, which had just preceded us.
Because you had to be able to see into her. And
because she came up real close to us at times, and we didn't ever know what that was going to be because we had this kind of cyber actor puppet, which was this big mechanical contraption with lots of wires hanging from it. And we were only hampered by the speed of light.
And this too?
The amount of computation that had to happen because all of her joints and wrists and legs and arm and head and all these movements were being computed in real time so Roger could direct on a monitor. And there was about 1/10 of a second, or a little bit less than that, delay because of the time it took to make all those computations.
Buy those?
It's a pretty wild setup.
yeah, it was interesting. This was one of the first times that I actually worked with a project in the respect of blending a digital character with an actual animatronic puppet and trying to make up those rules and decide when to use the puppets, when to use the digital version was all new ground at that point for us.
Well, the idea was, to give Roger the ability to use the real one, so you could actually see what you're doing and get, the dramatic points that way, and use the digital character for those things that you couldn't possibly do that way.
Exactly.
It's a challenge to sit there and preconceive these things. Now everybody's doing pre-visualizations and so on and so forth, but it's a challenge to go out and try and conceive these scenes and know exactly how they're going to turn out when you're dealing with digital puppets and digital characters and so on and so forth. And I mean, especially when we were doing this, I mean, we were sort of writing the book and reading it at the same time.
Right. She's going to start being invaded by worms here shortly.
Boy, that was some stressful stuff.
I remember getting these faxes from Giger about the worms and how they were going to come out of her.
Oh, that's right.
Just while we're on this train,
Drawings,
do you remember
which we couldn't show?
Do you remember this train? Where did we get this from? It was
We were up north someplace, right? It
well,
wasn't
no, it was
here.
in Los Angeles somewhere. This train was. We had to build or restore an old carriage to make the scene work. Sorry, back to the worms.
I don't remember.
Well, we'll be there soon.
In trying to translate what Giger was saying, it was one of those things where the language barrier definitely got in the way, because he kept telling me there must be looking like these pickles coming out of the face, these pickles. And so I'm over in my studio making pickle-like protuberances, and finally I sent him photographs of it, and he became infuriated, and I realized he'd been talking about pimples. He wanted them to look like pimples. Oh, it's like, well,
pickles.
It's a bit late now.
They look like
pickles.
The thing about working with Giger on this project for me is he'd had some bad experiences in the past working with people that had brought his visions to the screen, and I was such a fan, and always have been, of Giger's work, that I really wanted to go out of my way and do whatever it took to make him happy and please him on this. So we really did maintain a close working relationship, constant faxes, constant phone calls, even through the time delay. It didn't really matter because Giger stays up all night. But it was actually really fun working with him. He's a real genuine man, and he's a real artist's artist, and he really cares about the product.
And the interesting thing about most of us who sort of meld art and business is he doesn't. I mean, he's purely an artist. The business part of it never sort of figures into his thinking. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't want to know about it. And part of the challenge of working with somebody like him is to try and take everything that he's doing and put it in a context that you can actually work with. Put it in a context that you can actually fit into your movie and sort of have, properly represented, have him happy, and still have the wherewithal to do it within the context of your budget.
Yeah, it's a real tightrope walk.
Thank you for taking care of my cat.
And the thing is that his work is so hard not to copy.
Yeah.
You're making monsters. I mean, because he came up with such an interesting style that
did he do
kind of
Alien?
defined the
Yeah,
monster.
he
did
did
do
the, he did.
Alien.
He did the
That's
whole.
right. Yeah, that's it.
And the tricky thing was that he actually was involved in the fabricating of the alien and so on and so forth. And so he wanted to build this character. And I don't know, Roger, if you were there on that trip or not, but I had to go over and see this
No,
thing.
I remember you were a little bit
And it was a nightmare.
angst-ridden when you got there.
because it was clear that that we couldn't do this by proxy. That we had to do it in Los Angeles, and to get him away from the idea of building it himself was a bit of a struggle.
Well, I remember one of the reasons that he was not so keen to come to LA was that his mother was very ill.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to be separated from her, I believe.
This is one of Mr. Giger's contributions.
This train is awesome.
Train. Oh, yeah.
That actually is a real train that you could actually
Yeah,
ride
it was
on.
that was about 3 feet long. That one right there, and then
And this was built 100% by Giger at his studio.
Yeah.
and they sent it over, and we shot it on the stage.
Here we go. She's got
65.
actual
Here we go.
appliances on her face here. They're beautifully painted. Bill Corso applied this makeup with Kenny Myers.
It's pretty awesome
And
because,
she's got foam rubber appliances covering her
I mean,
cheeks and
you
chin there.
realize she's fatter in the face than she really
Right.
is.
Just subtly, yeah.
And the idea was that she's eating at a fast and furious rate and growing.
And it also gave us the
Soon.
layer that we needed to hide these little devices that started popping out of her skin. So what we actually came up with were little bladder-like devices that you see
There we
here.
go.
Where we're pulling them with wires. That's not a digital effect, although it looks like
Well,
one.
we had to remove the wires.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and
I
the
mean,
wire
that
The
removal,
skin was rigged to so that the worm would pop out, but it was motivated by a wire. You can see here we're
this
actually
is
pulling
all
her.
CG here.
No, this is real.
Yeah, these are
Oh, sorry. This is.
Digital.
I mean, this is But
This
once
is real.
these
It's CG
babies,
removal of the wires.
Yeah,
but
so this
this
foam rubber
is-
appliances.
this
on
is
the
all
hands.
real.
Now
there-
that's
these
digital.
Now we're
are
gonna
all
do
the CG worms.
I remember after shooting this scene,
God.
she was so into it.
Early
she
tracking
was
difficulties.
crying like crazy, and when you yelled "cut, Roger," she just kept crying, and I was thinking we must have pulled her face too hard. We really hurt her, but in actuality, she was
Oh,
really
God,
into the
yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
It's grossing me out even yet.
And part of the the train going in and out with the lights sort of fading in and out also sort of helped us to sort of
Right.
maintain, build, and stabilize the imagery.
It helped you.
Poor old Richard.
It sort of gave us a nightmare. But
Yeah.
but
Well, listen, it was the early days of
that's what this is all about.
This was the early days of
'Cause
digital
that's
work.
That's what
and,
makes it work. You know.
You know what for us now is a much easier. In those days, was the cutting edge stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is.
The other thing about creating Syl in this film is if you take a look at Giger's work, 99% of his figures are all female, and up
Women,
until this
right, exactly.
point, no one had ever done a female Giger character. It was always a male character.
Yeah.
So that was a great opportunity to be able to actually bring something that was much more Giger to the screen as opposed to all the alien things and alien ripoffs that had been done.
And the interesting thing to me, this cast really afforded us, as Roger said, he wanted to keep it as real as possible. Well, this cast afforded us those opportunities, and so within the realm of the movie that we were making, we were never sitting there winking all that much at anybody. We were sitting there trying to say, you know what, we're doing this movie, and this is what it's about, and here's the world that we're in, and Forrest's character and everybody in the movie
Fantastic.
really sort of just kind of brought you along at your own pace, so that you never really sort of had to make any big, huge moves.
Well, I think just the quality of the actors, helped sell the what the movie's about.
Right.
The actors believe what they're doing, and you start to believe it too.
Yeah.
Preston Lennox.
You had worked with Michael before, right?
Yeah. Michael was in The Getaway. He's a great actor. I really love working with him. I mean, every one of these people,
Let's just say I'm a freelance.
I think are really as good as you can get.
Yeah. I met Alfred on Raiders.
Yeah?
He played in the Give Me the Idol, Give Me the Whip.
Oh, yeah.
He's so good. I mean,
Of course, he gets impaled on spikes.
I loved him in Frida, where he played Diego Rivera. He was
Yeah.
fabulous.
Yeah, right.
Marg's
right.
fabulous, and everything she's done. CSI.
And this poor lady
Oh God, here we go.
is going to be.
Don't go in there. Don't go any further.
You in here, honey?
Definitely don't go into that room.
Well, this is really interesting because we wanted to make something physical that we could have right there on the set that was really big, but also really organic and really alive.
Yeah.
And so we kind of developed a technique that I've used a lot of times since then. That thing is actually made of garbage bags. It's heat treated and hand manipulated, and it's all pumped with positive and negative airflow. A lot of different ways of pulling it in and out. So it's really just very, very thin plastic that's been manipulated and kind of sculptured after the fact. And I was always real pleased with that.
And
Here
this
the
is
set's actually upside down.
Right.
It was
Okay.
in each
And,
the camera and the
uh,
set.
Here comes Natasha.
and
All right.
it's no mean feat to pull that off. And whose idea was it to do it upside down? I guess it was, I don't know whose
Yeah,
it was.
it was actually Lenny McDonald on
It
my
was?
end. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we were trying to figure out how to get her out of that
Out of the
thing,
thing,
and we
yeah.
knew that we could never really do it for
Yeah.
everyone. So it was a great solution.
Kind of
We
a
used gravity
head-first
to help
birth
us.
scene, right?
Well, we used gravity to help us
Right.
make it work,
Gravity.
And this
can
was
be
the
a
first
friend.
thing that Natasha had ever really done, and it was, I remember being kind of a,
That was her first scene.
well, no, I mean, it was the first, no, the first scene is her walking through the streets, but,
Through the streets
oh,
of
yeah.
LA.
but as far as when we cast her, I mean, she was literally inexperienced, and it was Roger sort of took on the challenge. I mean, she certainly aesthetically was perfect. It was a matter, could she pull off the part?
Well, I think, listen, we looked, at many, many young women trying to find somebody who could do this. We wanted somebody who could act and somebody who looked great and was prepared to, do the part. And, we hadn't really found what we were looking for, and we went to New York, I think I remember.
That's
and
right.
We found Natasha, and I, she was very inexperienced, obviously, when I first met her, but I just felt that she just showed something that indicated to me that she really had some acting ability, and I think it took a bit of convincing everybody else to give her a shot because those early tests maybe were her inexperience showed, but I really felt that she had the potential to do something really special, and I'm glad everybody in the end said to go with her because I think she really did deliver.
She did. I think in some ways her inexperience might have helped her.
Yeah, especially in the early part.
Not only that, it was helpful for her part not to be a recognizable movie star.
Oh, absolutely.
The opening of her walking through Los Angeles, looking around and so on and so forth. I mean, I just don't know that we could have got that with somebody who'd done 5 movies or 6 movies or 7 movies. I mean, she really we sort of set up the movie in such a way where she could sort of ease her way in and not feel overly sort of taken by huge dialogue scenes early on. I mean, so she really sort of worked her way into it, and it really worked for the movie.
Yeah, these are another series of puppets. Little plastic inflatable ones in the
Very
beginning.
convincing.
That one was silicone. It seems so silly to walk over like the intent of hiring an actor and all of that with, look at the inflatable puppets.
Well, this movie works for a number of reasons, and the special effects are very much a part of this story because without them, the story wouldn't have come together. And it's not easy to make special effects look anything but special effects. You know what I mean? I think that's the genius of you guys is to to do real cutting edge stuff that people hadn't done before and not sort of go like, well, we can't do that, but it's like, well, how are we going to do that? And then finding out, coming up with ways to do it.
Yeah, like that effect we just saw. She was going through a false table, Michelle, and then we had a fake back across her and some technician with a spike poking through her back.
So it's not really her back.
No.
But it looks like it.
I remember actually that was the very first effect we shot on this film.
Yeah.
And you gave me a call. I wasn't on set for it. And you're like, Steve, this looks like hell. This doesn't work. This looks phony. I believe because we first staged it with it coming not through the skin, but you just saw the hospital gown come up. So I said, well, let me see what we can do about that. And we went back and reshot it with it going through skin. And it read a lot better.
Yeah.
It makes you feel bad. It makes you feel bad.
Not that you want to take your 10-year-old to see this movie, but the 10-year-old is like one of your more severe critics because they, if it doesn't
pass
look right,
them, it doesn't pass
funny,
anybody.
Hey, that looks funny. And then you've lost
they're
them.
not very kind.
Right. No.
They
exactly not.
can spot anything that's not up to standard.
The transient was found in a boxcar in a siding near Salt Lake City.
I mean, that's the thing about movies. Nobody really, unless you're involved in it, really understand just how much effort does go into it. I mean, even that shot there, it was a whole false wall, false legs to make the guy's body look all crumpled. It was a big undertaking to make those stills work.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the real actor went through a hole in the train, and we just stuck some fake legs on backwards. Pretty effective.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that really set the movie apart was Roger had never done this kind of movie before, so he wasn't doing his 7th genre picture.
Since.
So
obvious reasons.
no, but I do think that you bring a different level of reality to it, as
Absolutely,
opposed to a guy who's done 17 horror films or genre pictures where they say, "Well, this will work." What's the effect look like, and let's make it work. The thing, it's really like, let's get to the next effect, as opposed to Roger's telling a story.
I was trying to look for
Exactly.
the drama in it, really.
And the thing
It
is,
makes this not a
put
monster
the effects
movie.
within that kind of context makes the effects work better.
Yeah.
too, because you're not calling the audience's attention. Look at, it's like that shot of was it Lon Chaney turning into the werewolf, where it's
Right.
like a series of dissolves. I mean, it's like that's the worst kind of use of effect you can have. You got to put it in context of the action.
It was pretty amazing in 1932.
Yeah.
No, I know that, but I mean, I'm just saying that kind of
Well,
of
things
thing where
evolve,
you,
I mean,
where
look
it's
at this
like
movie and
you
things
cut
have
to a
evolved
visual
since this
effect,
picture.
is
Welcome to Los Angeles, California. This is the terminal stop for the Desert Star.
This is the Los Angeles railway station. I believe. This was some of the first footage that we did shoot with her, wasn't it?
Yep.
Now, how did that
How did she
uniform
fit
end up
into
fitting
that?
her exactly?
How did she fit into that?
She shrank it.
Yeah.
Getting the studio to sort of go with Natasha wasn't an easy task, because she hadn't had any experience. She, it was risk, and they finally, after numerous tests, sort of bought into basically our just saying, we just really want to do it with this girl, and since then she's gone on to sort of become quite popular.
I think this is probably some of the first
Yeah,
stuff
this is
we
the
shot.
first stuff we shot. That's like a pre-production day, I think. Wasn't some of that a pre-production day? Remember we went out there with the camera and we just said, let's just go out and shoot the real streets and stick her in the middle of it and see what we get.
Right.
Something bad happened here.
Oh, shit. Crushed her larynx.
She was afraid. She's scared. She's frightened.
Hungry too, by the looks of it. She's been eating like a horse.
Well, our girl is definitely not on a diet.
You know, what I like about this scene is it really does establish the characters of these people so clearly and strong,
Oh, no. Well,
I frankly would have been out of there.
Yeah. I think I'm the wrong guy for the
Sat
job.
there and
This was a set, if I remember rightly, wasn't it?
yeah.
If that is a cocoon,
Where were the stages?
she'll be fully grown.
Oh, I know that.
The Hollywood General, right?
Yeah.
Which used to be Zoetrope.
Right.
She is a child.
So this is
I
a
worked
set.
on
Where they shot one from the
the
heart.
The Addams Family
Okay, was that over there?
when I
Yeah.
first got in the business.
Get the conductor's ID and credit card.
That's right. You were the Thing.
I used to do inserts for the thing.
Oh, really?
That was my hand in the main title.
Oh, that's funny.
She kills her, she feels threatened. And she has no remorse about it.
Richard, because I don't know, tell me a little bit of your history, how you got into special effects.
I think I was really interested in photography because I think it was an art that was realizable through gadgets, and I kind of had an interest in both, and visual effects is kind of like the razor's edge of photography. It's like the most difficult area that you could get into because you got to trick people into making them think that they're seeing what you want them to think they're seeing. And I got into movies when I was in the Navy in Japan. And when I came back, I went to SC and actually got into the business by handing my resume into the Department of Employment. And a guy named Joe Westheimer who had a company that did opticals and titles and special effects for mostly television, a little bit for features, was my first job in the business. And
When did you start Boss Films?
well, I did. First of all, I worked for Joe. Did my stint as a hippie photographer for a few years, rock and roll album covers and stuff like that, and then experimental movies in San Francisco. Came back in, did Pig Nose Amplifiers. Let me see. Then Bob Abel. I came into Bob Abel's studio in about 73 or 4. And was there for about 2 years, and then Star Wars appeared.
So you worked on Star Wars?
Yeah, and so Star Wars was my first big feature opportunity, and
Good
Was
one to
that
have.
Was that with John Dykstra?
yeah, I worked with John and the original ILM crew,
Right.
and then John went off to do other things. I went on to do Empire, moved the studio up to San Francisco, and
So you were running the
yeah, I
special
was like
effects?
the visual effects, and then for Lucasfilm, and then I did Empire, Raiders, Poltergeist, Jedi. Then I decided to strike out on my own, came back to LA and started the studio, started Boston '83 with Ghostbusters in 2010.
An illustrious history. Right.
Yeah, and I met Steve right around in there. Steve
Yeah,
worked
Richard
on-
actually has had quite an impact on my career. After
both had impacts on each other's careers.
Yeah, exactly. After working with Rick Baker
There's Roger and Andre
Oh my
Bartoli
God, that's-
behind.
The truth is, we were a bit short of extras this day.
That's funny.
When
Notice
the
that, just
director and the
noticing
DP have got to be the extras, you know that the budget is severely restricted at times.
Again, I think this is one of the, I'm not
I'd
100%
forgotten
sure,
it.
but I think this was like one of those cheat days where we said, well, we got a camera, we got some people, let's just go out there and try and steal some of this stuff.
Hey,
So, Steve, tell me how you tied up with.
Well, I, as a kid, was always real creative. I liked to make things, and I ended up just trying to figure out makeup effects on my own. I just liked the idea of giving birth to things that weren't there, changing things into other things. And so I met Rick Baker, who's one of the top guys in the industry now, when he came to Texas, where I grew up, and did a seminar. And I started corresponding with him. And when I graduated high school, I packed my car up, drove out, knocked on his door, and he started introducing me to a few people, Greg Kinham, Rob Bottin. I did some low-budget films. A couple of years later, started working with Rick on American Werewolf in London. And then I did Greystoke with him in Videodrome. And as Richard felt at ILM, I thought, why not do this on my own? I can do this on my own. But I had the great advantage of contacting Richard when he came to town to open a Boss Film for Ghostbusters, to be able to go over there and work for Richard's company. He hired me to run the Ghost Company with Randy Cook, who since has won an Oscar for the Lord of the Rings
Lucky
trilogies.
Dog's got 2 of them already.
Yeah, exactly. So Richard hired myself and Randy to run the Ghost Shop, and then it just kept going. Poltergeist 2, Big Trouble in Little China. And then ultimately I thought, well, why am I doing this for Richard? And I went out and opened my own place in '86, and then Richard hooked back up with me on this project.
This scene was kind of cool because it constantly sort of brings you back to the science of what we're trying to accomplish. It constantly brings you back to this whole DNA and trying to sort of create something that hasn't been created before, so that it allows for us to sort of take this in a different direction and to constantly bring new things into the movie that gives us more latitude, gives us more flexibility, and gives us different toys to play with.
Although I have one thing to say here. There's one flaw in the story that I could never wrap my head around. Here they have this alien creature on the planet. They don't know how to kill it. So the way they try to figure out how to kill it is to make another one that's a pure alien that's doubly powerful, when they don't know how to kill the first one anyway. Good thinking.
Well,
But why didn't you get smarter a bit earlier, Steve?
but thank God for sequels. Then what would you going to do for a sequel?
And what were you going to do for a job if you'd pointed that out?
And that's what they're doing here, right?
Here's
They're
the old-
making the purebred one.
Yeah. I mean,
However,
There's another one of those
in defense of the
inflatable
story,
beauties you get here.
the idea is that they're doing it in a confined space where if it shows any signs of stepping out of line, they can incinerate it.
And the other thing is too is that it's this whole notion of what happens when you mix sort of this pure strain alien with human DNA, and I really feel like here again it's just this wonderment of what's going to happen. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. They don't know. We're just going to all sort of learn and see together.
Well, not unlike what's really happening in the real world.
I was
now.
just going to say, I just
Exactly.
saw some
Making,
guy was
frogs
at a workstation with one of those doodads trying to impregnate an egg.
Yep.
And it's not like the divine chaos of birth, you know what I mean? It's like some guy working on drilling a hole in this little...
Here we go. This was a tough scene to shoot. There must be 18 or 20 different puppets, I think, in this scene.
Where'd it go?
And I remember that backwards working thing just really was an accident more than anything else. I mean, that we just ended up seeing and loving the way it looked.
Once again, these are plastic bag creatures. You can see it's being inflated there to kind of indicate growth.
Fast and furious growth.
And here again, you have Fitch, who's sitting there sort of betwixt and between. Should I let this thing go and see what happens? Don't let anybody out of there, and trying to save the people. I mean,
Well, the experiment's more important than the people that are inside there.
And that's why he's the one that's just mandating that they stay in there, whereas everybody else more humanely wants them out.
And interesting, it's like, the use of effects is kind of like less is more. You want to show the audience just not quite enough to
that's
where
right.
they really see it.
Well,
This
stuff
is really
like
kind
this,
of impressionism is what
It
you're
is.
after.
This is
It's like
completely. It's
three-dimensional impressionism.
It's some Steve and his team are there waving things around inside that
From
container.
under, there's 20 of them below the
20
floor.
of them underneath the floor there,
Right.
doing all of the...
Whoa. And then you've had Conrad Buff working with you.
Conrad Buff, who was the editor of this picture,
Probably
fantastic
one of the
editor.
top
Great
5
job.
editors
You
in the
know,
business now. You know,
cut everything so it, makes the most of what we had.
He also was really important as far as like realizing where the digital stuff was going to start.
Right.
And where he really made some great contributions to the movie.
You know, Conrad was my editor. I hired him on to be the head of the editorial department on Empire Strikes Back, and he was an assistant.
Wow.
But he was much better than the editor.
Right.
that I was working on it, and he was the editor at Boss for about 4 or 5 years.
Oh, really?
Wow. I didn't
Conrad
know
was?
that.
I didn't know that. Conrad
and he
edited-
married, and Laura was the, she was the business person, and they met and married, so it's like one of those ILM Boss marriages.
Well, I've finished up. I've done 3 movies with Conrad.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's a great guy. Such a gentleman.
Yeah, really. And he really liked the story too, which was
Yeah.
helpful. I mean, he was always he loved the performances. He was always looking for moments with Forrest and everybody where you see twinkles in eyes and
Right.
smirks and things that just sort of going to give it life.
One of
His
the things
grandfather was a painter.
That's
and
right.
His father was an architect.
Oh, wow.
Buff
Yeah.
and Hinsman, They were. In fact, Sid Mead had bought a Buff and Hinsman house.
His grandfather was a really great painter.
Yeah. And I think it's Conrad the Fourth, isn't he?
Yeah.
This is why you wanted Natasha.
Well, the interesting thing about it is Natasha is one of the few people that truly had a comfort with herself in front of the screen.
In front of the
with
camera on the screen.
Yeah, on the screen in front of the camera, without clothes, and it really made everybody else's life a lot easier. I mean, it made everybody else feel like, okay, she's okay with it, then let's just sort of go about our business.
Well, she was a model, a
Yeah.
experienced model before this, right?
Yeah, man. But I've worked with lots and lots of people, and and all of a sudden, they get to the moment, and all of a sudden, it's really difficult, and they're having a hard time with it, and it becomes what the scene ends up being about, as opposed to her. She's not supposed to have any awareness of this thing. She's free, and so since she doesn't have a human context to put this nudity in, that's who she's playing. She really made all that work, and she really made that easy.
I mean, I think if we hadn't have had someone as good as Natasha, the picture wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, clearly. Because I mean, again, she's in effect she's the monster of the movie, but you have all this empathy for her because of how she presents herself.
It's just you don't want to be around when those spikes come out of the
Richard
back,
made a
right?
very interesting analogy at one point during our creation of all these effects, and that was that she is killing people like a lion kills people.
Yeah.
There's no malice involved. It's
Right.
just what it does.
Right.
And that really was an interesting way to put it, and it made a lot of sense to me.
Because there really
she
hadn't
did-
been, as Steve said, there hadn't really been a female monster, movie before, or at least one that I was aware of. So, you're constantly trying to figure out what are we making here? What kind of movie are we making here? And, making a movie with this beautiful girl being the center of it that ends up being actually masking as this beautiful girl, but it's really this monster with these intents that you can't understand. It was challenging to try and find a tone that was right. And I think Roger really sort of constantly
I mean, these shots here, these close-ups of her, this is why she's so darn good.
Yeah.
I mean, she really sells the idea of, that sort of naivety, but also the jealousy and that, okay, well, you know what I mean? It's
Right.
It's only sold with the quality of the acting that she's bringing to it.
Stalking Lioness.
And then, pretty soon, we're going to see Steve Johnson at his best.
Oh yeah.
Or his most gross best. To pull off this sequence coming, this was a set, false wall, How do we put that hand through it?
I think it was assisted with some kind of squibs to blow the wall. There had to be some assist with it, but it was a glove version of the puppet hand.
Yeah.
Someone actually wore it.
Can't see much on that.
Get this tape back to the lab, enhance it. Let's see if we can get a better look at her.
She looks nice.
You know, one of the things that I was keen to do was to shoot this picture anamorphic because there were lots of groups of people, and you can see them in these. You know, when you've got a lot of people lined up and you've got a lot of people talking, you know, it helps to be anamorphic to put it all together.
It's the way God wanted movies to be made.
Absolutely.
Andre really did a great job in the movie too. I mean, because again, you know, using all the tricks to sort of make the effects work and make it look real, and again, you know, just present it like a big movie. Present it like a movie that mattered. Somehow, when the CinemaScope thing comes out, it says this movie's a cut above what you just saw. I mean, it just does.
He lit the movie very interestingly too, I think. Like, for instance, in the lab scenes, there's a lot of predominant bright green light that you don't take as feeling false for any reason, but what lab is lit with green light? It just looks great.
Yeah.
Yikes.
That was a great makeup job.
Yeah.
No, it was. Completely convincing.
It's probably because it got so much dimension. We knew we could hide inches on her back there based on the fact she was bent over without seeing the depth that we had added. So.
There's always some action in this part of town.
Now we're coming up to the first use of the puppet. First time we see her, actually.
Oh yeah, this is get ready for the MTV Kiss of the Year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is kind of fun. This was.
I forgot what SIL stands for. What is SIL? Anybody here remember?
No.
It means something.
Oh, there was, I think it's explained in the movie.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, it is.
Robbie left with a blonde.
That's Come on, let me show you the rest
Forrest
of the
is a great actor, isn't he?
Forrest is awesome, and then he went on to direct after that, and did some really neat stuff with that too. I mean, very sensitive, talented guy.
Like it?
Yes.
I feel like
All right, get ready.
You want one? Tell you what, I'm gonna take one. Want to get in and take one later? No problem.
This guy's a great lecher.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't wait. He's a right job.
When she
you don't feel bad at all about what's about to happen to this guy.
Exactly. And when she transforms in the jacuzzi, I was a nervous wreck the night before we shot.
That was such a nightmare.
First time we used the puppet, and it was working in water. I think we had just literally started sculpting it maybe 12 weeks before, and the first time we shoot with it, it's working in water. I was paranoid that something terrible would go wrong, but it ended up working out really well.
Well, don't you remember when the pool started to...
The rust.
Everything rusted up, and the old tiles started coming off the bottom.
That's right.
Cutting the actor's feet.
It's when we were putting the puppet in to test it, and people thought the puppet must be rusting, and then we realized it was something in the filtration system, I think. So we blamed John Muto. Good thing he's not here.
Good thing he's not here.
The production
Always blame
designer.
the guy who's not around. Keys to filmmaking.
All right.
Very nice.
Now she realizes that this isn't the one.
Can you drive me back?
What are you talking about? You knew what we came here for.
I've changed my mind.
All right. You said no.
This poor guy ended up having to have a puppet physically attached to him
You're not leaving.
for like the entire day of shooting.
All right.
How did we do this tongue?
This was
We
digital.
matted it in.
Yeah.
Well, no, we actually made a piece.
So it's physical,
that-
but it's matted
shot,
in.
Right.
but we shot your unit.
and then mounted it onto his head,
Right.
exactly. So we had the
And
blood
here it
spray and
comes.
the explosion done physically.
Oh.
Yeah.
MTV.
I think
Kiss
I
of the
still
Year.
have his silver tongue that Giger made in
But it is pretty
Century.
convincing. It's pretty convincing.
Yeah, it's pretty phallic.
I guess that's what the problem is. It's convincing.
That was so great. I remember being so excited about the blend of technologies in that
Yeah.
shot
Yeah.
because, that was back when people weren't thinking to do that stuff.
No, that's
to
right.
take a
We had to
puppet,
shoot that unit as a separate blue screen thing. And,
right, and then mat it on. It was real
and
leap
coming
at that
through
point.
the hair and
This wasn't done on a big big budget where, you
Right.
don't have to worry about these things. If it didn't work this way, you could do it another way. We had to sort of know which way it was going to work and how it was going to work, and constantly sort of addressing how much things were going to cost, because it wasn't a studio with, a huge slate and a huge budget.
I forgot what the effects budget was on this movie. Those are back in the days of low effects budgets.
Yeah, I don't really remember.
There are a lot of smart people working on this show.
What's happening? Kills the girl at the club, comes home with this guy, kills him.
Well, I'd say she fits the classic definition of a psychopath. She's got nothing to inhibit her. No moral sense, no social structure.
Well, she wasn't exactly smothered with a mother's love or taught good manners, you know what I mean?
I asked what was happening.
He did something to her. She was angry.
She'll kill if she feels threatened. She'll kill anyone that gets in her way.
Gets in her way of what?
Her life cycle. I think she's trying to mate.
I remember we shot this stuff handheld just to sort of give it more sort of,
Why'd she kill the girl at the club?
so it didn't feel too static getting around the people.
Competition.
And now she's managed to mate.
Doesn't look like a successful mating to me. Still got his pants on.
She's frustrated.
Who isn't?
What is her problem? He was here, she was here.
All right, maybe she rejected him. She probably has some special kind of senses. Rats can sense diseased or genetic damage in their potential mates, so we can test his body.
How about Marg? I mean, she's like truly the only woman that I've ever met that gets better looking every year.
Isn't it
She's on the
amazing?
planet. I mean, she's amazing. She
When
looks
was
so
this
beautiful
movie?
now. This was what? 10 years ago.
Yeah.
This was 10 years ago. Because I remember my son was born when I bought the script, and he's 10 now.
Wow.
Insulin, diabetic, there you have it.
Well, she could have just walked out. Why did she have to kill him?
Well, I guess he pissed her off.
Some men don't like to be rejected. They get insistent.
Put an APB out in this guy's car.
It's already happened.
We'll go back to the motel. I want to check it out thoroughly.
More docile and controllable, huh, Fitch?
Here comes trouble.
What do you think, Dan?
What do I think? I think she'll want to be alone right now. I don't think she's going to want to come here with all these cars lined up out front.
Well, you are assuming that you could find your way back here.
How did you get into making films, Frank?
I started making, really low budget. My dad was involved in sales of films, and I lived in the East Coast and got involved in making really low budget production work, production assistant work on low budget movies, and just continued to sort of do it until I worked my way up to one of the second Friday the 13th movie, where I started off as a production assistant and through attrition sort of grew through the movie and ended up being the line producer on the movie. And I was really my first real job out of school, and I was fortunate enough to have that movie be real successful, and they gave me a piece of it and then just gave me the franchise to go out there and start making it. So what was good about it, I mean, even though the content wasn't something I was all that proud of, it really sort of made me aware of how things got done from a very sort of bottom level. And I never have to I never, knew about Hollywood movies until much later on. So doing things on budgets were always something that I sort of understood just by virtue of where I came from.
I remember the scrapes on the left-hand front of this BMW, having to take this brand new car and beat the hell out of it to make it look like she'd.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Oh, as a lover of cars, I found that hard to do.
So, Roger, what did you do? The Bounty was like the first.
Well, no,
big
I
movie.
started
It
off
was
as a stills photographer many years ago, and then I moved into making commercials and documentaries, and then I made some short dramatic films, and then I made a couple of feature films in New Zealand, and one of them, Smash Palace, led to me coming to the States, and I met with Dino De Laurentiis and made The Bounty and Marie for him, and then went on to do movies like No Way Out and Cocktail, and made a career for myself here in Hollywood, and this movie was a bit of a departure for me because I hadn't done anything quite like this. But I was attracted, I think, to the sort of premise of the movie, the idea of the SETI project and the science of it. And I just felt that if you could get a great cast, you could make a really entertaining movie out of it. And that's what it turned out to be. It was a success, and I think people who were wanting to see this sort of movie enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Be fully developed.
Her biological clock must be in hyperdrive.
She wants to have a baby.
Well, if she manages to have a child, our problems have just started. And if her offspring's male and it develops at the same accelerated rate as Sil,
How well did the movie do, Frank?
Well enough to make some sequels.
Yeah, I know the studio made a ton of money on the movie. And it did, I think it's in the 60s, which was like double the budget here, and then I think another 60-something overseas. It's probably close to 150 million overall. But the key was that we were able to make it at a price where, like I said, the studio came out really well on a movie that they didn't have a huge investment in.
Here, just put it on my credit card for the time being.
And you don't know her name. Guys like you are.
This was USC, I think, right?
Yeah. Now the special effects here, how do we do that? Do you remember? Digital, I think it was.
I'm not sure what
this
happens
is
here,
the this is the healing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was digital.
Yeah, we did a digital healing thing, grafting parts of the skin on. This was like real arduous in those days because it was the early times when it wasn't as easy to track. Now you can do. Yeah, there we go. It could have been. What's going on? Today it would be better. But you get the point.
10 years ago.
It works pretty good,
That's convincing.
Doctor, we need you immediately.
That's funny. That reminds me of an effect we did on Fright Night, Richard, when the cross fades away when Evil Ed dies at the end. You did a fairly standard lap dissolve to take it off.
Yeah, exactly.
But we realized at the end that the effect was not strong enough. The makeup that dissolved off wasn't strong enough. So you went back in and rotoed it and made it stronger. And I thought that was so magical at the time. I mean, doing all that photochemically at that point.
It was really
crazy.
difficult.
Seriously injured.
I'm okay.
You are. It's a miracle.
Can we go?
Well, did the doctor say you could go?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll look at it. We'll send somebody over there. Thanks a lot.
The Jaguar is a Ford and it doesn't have Lucas Electricals.
That's
parts
right.
That's
anymore.
why it goes well now.
One beer.
That's right.
Miles from here. Laura,
Press took a car. Check it out.
Park Bay Hospital.
yeah, Park Bay.
She walked. She walked.
In Venice.
She walked that way.
Yeah, this is down at the beach.
Not too long ago.
A handsome man, that Ben Kingsley.
Mm-hmm.
Got some fruit and cheese here.
What is that?
What do you mean, the hot tub?
Hot tub.
I love this place. It's away from the traffic and the business and all the people.
Even aliens go after wealthy guys. The only guys she hits on have money.
We'll immortalize the moment.
Polaroid camera. Yeah, there you go.
Look at the camera.
Oh, I haven't. The Fire Stick. I haven't seen one of those before.
Who checked her in?
I don't know. Let's find out.
She had no insurance, so this guy put it on his own credit card. Here's the file. John F. Carey.
You haven't got a driver's license, home address, social security number, anything like that?
No, sir. I only got an imprint of his credit card. That's the only information I have.
Can you give us a printout of whatever you've got?
No problem.
Some candy?
These are just the props on the top there, of course. Michael had to use them.
All right, it's addressed in the Palisades, and he's got a phone number.
Tell Fitz where we're headed and try to get John Kerry on the line.
Now we are just waiting for the fight scenes.
So
blah, blah, blah. Where's the death scene?
Oh, here it comes.
There we go. There we go.
So this was a real hot pool, wasn't it? This wasn't a set.
No, this was on stage. Oh, you know what?
Those are
This
real.
was-
This
this
might
a
not
set?
have been.
Nice.
Or was this a
I know
set?
we shot the puppet on stage.
Yes, Pub was definitely on stage.
Well, hang on. Was this must have been a set because we had all the lights.
Yeah,
and
it
everything.
must have been.
I better get the phone.
No, this is the real
transformation.
That's the most,
so
the hardest part of the movie. Why this guy would get out of that hot tub.
That for me was the sort of humor of it, you know. That where he's like, whoa, hang on, not so fast.
Copulate, huh?
Yeah.
I think this transformation is really successful, what you guys did, Richard.
Yeah, this was really a long project. This is like about 4 months' work.
It's not too soon for us.
It's really nice because it's her. It's her face.
Yeah.
It's starting to deform and transform. It's really well done.
You don't need these.
And you know, it's wonderful for
Whoa.
it's wonderful for the writer to imagine some of these things and to write some of these things, and you're constantly worried about the fact, what's this thing going to look like? Is it ever going to look like we want it to look like? Is it going to be funny?
That's right.
And when they actually start to work, you know, you really feel this tremendous sense of relief.
But we're in a place now where you can do anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can write anything and not worry about it.
Plenty of time.
But, you know, this was like in a kind of a transition era.
You just have to worry about having the money to do it.
Yeah.
That's the
Well, that's
last
right.
worry.
Oh, no, I think someone's at the door.
Don't go. Please. I want a baby.
What?
Get back in here, boy.
This was, you know,
Here
he
we
was
go.
earning his money on this day.
Okay, here we go. Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. It's flawless. It holds up even now.
Well, it tracks and,
And it goes even further.
oh, it's good.
Yeah.
And that wasn't easy either.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that eye shot?
Double
Yeah,
blink, yeah.
yikes.
But this was, you
This
know,
is- now we're-
creativity at its best, you know, with this, because this is all shot in reverse, I believe.
Right, the tentacles wrapped around him and pulled back through
So
her
the
breast.
idea is that this tentacle comes out of her breast and then goes down his throat. Well, obviously doing that would be pretty difficult. So we started off with all of this tentacle stuffed in his mouth and then got yanked out.
Interesting thing about the motivation of this puppet is he's doing almost all of it himself. The hands
Yeah,
are
I know
attached
what
It's
to
like,
him.
it's like the old Lon Chaney.
And
thing.
we must have had
Oh, Lugosi.
well, it just reminds me of that scene.
Yeah,
you know,
what is it?
wrestling with the octopus.
Exactly. It doesn't really do anything. Just get in there and
Yeah,
move
well,
it
it was the puppet was glued to his back. Remember,
was,
It was physically glued to his back.
with six
And he
guys
was-
in the tub with him.
That's right, and he was thrashing around, you know, to make
There's
it look
that.
real.
Psycho shot. A little blood in the bottom of the shower there.
But that puppet, I mean, was world class. I mean, it really was. I mean, when you started to see those dailies of it thrashing around with him, you said, you know what, we got a movie. This thing's going to work. It's going to hold up.
Yeah, it's got to be scary. I mean, even the responsibility of creating a character for a film like this, and if it doesn't work, and it can seriously
Serious
damage
problem.
the film.
Well, the film will not work if it doesn't work. Now, how do we do that eye? That was the puppet through the fence post, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Oh, wait a minute. Was it? Or was that in a digital shot? Seems to me it was.
I kind of think it was a digital shot, too.
Yeah.
No, it was the puppet.
Yeah, I actually think I remember shooting it.
It's funny how those mysteries occurred. We'll never know now.
Everyone's claiming it.
That's right.
The shot must have worked.
Exactly.
Thing is, Giger couldn't make it here because his mother was ill, and my mother was ill at the same time, and so we shared that kind of thing. And strange guy that he is, he's actually had, you know, I discovered that he had quite a heart.
There are, of course, no helicopters. It's just lights up on top of cranes shining down like a helicopter light, and then, of course, you put the sound effect in.
That's what the digital shot was.
You believe?
I think that was a digital shot.
Yeah. I remember once, Roger, I overheard you on set saying something like, if I can get 2 helicopters, actually have 2 physical helicopters here to shoot with, I might as well have 10. And I was always confused by that. What did you mean by that?
I don't know.
You don't remember? I thought at the time it was maybe because you'd start
10
going back
aren't
into
that much
frame.
more than
I see,
2.
yeah.
It's that first 2 that cost the most, right?
Yeah.
It was so funny. I remember I remember thinking, man, he really knows what he's doing. He can turn 2 helicopters into 10. Now you don't even know what I'm talking about.
Mrs. Donaldson.
Yeah, my wife now.
Oh, that's it, man.
That's right. I forgot about this scene.
Hey!
Whoa.
You gotta help me, please.
It's a naked girl.
What's the matter?
We found this in the living room. She liked him.
No, not enough. Can't see any more on that than we did on the video monitor.
He didn't get a very good picture of her, did he?
Criminologist says there's
It's a cool Polaroid.
Yeah. Who's got those Polaroids?
I think they went right to the Smithsonian.
The prop guy. Maybe Muto's got it stashed somewhere.
What have you come up with lately, Fitch?
She's not scared of us. That's for sure.
We're all beat. We'll go back.
Where was that location?
In Santa Monica Canyon.
Tomorrow night, we'll go back to the club.
Stake it out. She's not stupid. She's not gonna repeat herself.
There's little point going back there. It provided.
You know, one of the things when you watch a movie without the sound on, you really do see. You know, you see the quality of the actors.
Yeah, who's
you really
working,
do.
who's
you know.
not? Yeah.
And reminiscing about how close we got.
Well, working with Giger was really interesting because I had been such a fan of his work since the first Alien movie. He designed the creatures for that film, and what struck me about those, what I thought was so amazing, is that those designs did not look like they came from a human brain. And I thought that was really appropriate because they were not supposed to be. They were alien environments, you know, the interior of the spaceships and the devices.
Right.
And I don't think the world had ever seen anything quite that different. And I think that's why he made such an impact, design-wise, on so many films.
Well, Frank and I, we went to his place in Switzerland, and where he lives is pretty out there. You know, it's
its own world.
Like,
I mean,
it is its
you
own
sit in
world.
chairs with skulls on them. I mean, you sit in an environment that he's completely created, and there's never a doubt as to whose world you're in when you're with him. And yet, as Richard said, I mean, I found him to be, you know, a very sort of soulful, you know, sweet man. I mean, who was sort of had this amazing ability to sort of take something from his head and put it on paper and make it come to life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's once again interesting, not understanding the film industry and not being over here when his films are being made put him in quite a difficult position because he wants so badly to have control over it. Yet, you know, there are so many things, as you were saying earlier, Frank, that, you know, concessions that have to be made when you make a film regarding budgets and schedules and that kind of thing. So I'm sure it's ultimately always incredibly frustrating for him.
Well, the interesting thing about an artist like him is it's about him, the airbrush, and a piece of paper, and so he does have control. I mean, it's all him. Now all of a sudden you bring in 100 people, and with all their own views of what his world is and what his design is, and it's different, and it has to be different, and that's part of the frustration.
Right.
But he actually was very happy with this end result. I mean, he really felt like, you know, everybody respected it, got it. You know, I mean, I talked to him, I must have been daily.
Yeah, and I couldn't have been happier that we actually made him happy. That was one of my major goals in the film.
Yeah.
To hell with you and Roger, I want to make Giger happy. Okay.
You know, one of the things that I think realized his sort of what he felt the thing could be are those dream sequences.
Yeah.
I think they got as close as anything ever did to really what he drew on paper
Well, that's what's so interesting about him as a designer for film is that he doesn't stop really with the images on paper. He came up with a lot of the action, how these people should be killed, the spikes coming out of the back, the kiss, the tongue coming in. I mean, he really wanted to put his mark on this film, other than just the two-dimensional aspect, what he normally does in design.
Why do you think you're here?
I don't know.
I think, if I recall correctly, he had a lot of ideas that would have given this film a triple X rating.
Yes, not all of them could be in the movie.
I wouldn't hurt you. I promise. I wouldn't hurt you.
Yes, you would. You just don't know it yet.
No, I wouldn't. Please. My hands are hurting me. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
This is completely...
Once again, totally just a prosthetic with her thumb bent behind. A little bit lightweight when it comes clicking off.
It looks pretty real to me.
I'll just save that. Wow, that's cool.
And I think this was some of the most successful digital work in the film.
Yeah, it's nice. Really nicely done. She's great in this scene, too. She really is.
There's just a nonchalance about everything that Natasha does in this movie that just makes you just sort of smile. This was up by Dodger
Is it
Stadium.
Griffith Park?
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, I think it was Griffith Park or Elysian Park.
Elysian Park.
Yeah,
that's where it was.
Yeah, it was right up by Dodger Stadium.
I was trying to remember what it was called.
Remember, because it was remember the police academy was close by and everything.
No, Elysian Park is where it was.
So, did Principal go for about 16 weeks on this? Do you remember?
No, it wasn't that long.
Was it 12?
Was it?
Maybe. And then we did some second unit afterwards with the puppets and stuff.
Yeah, that underwater stuff was really effective. I think a lot of it is in how you shot it. Or there was you actually used a lens that warped it.
Well, what we did was we put an anamorphic lens on an anamorphic lens, I believe, and sort of twisted it so it sort of distorted the picture.
Yeah, that really helped. And also, I remember you set up strobe lights behind and in front of it and alternated back and forth, which also really, so it wasn't just about the physical
They were
things
actually,
around the water.
you know, for lighting, for producing lightning effects.
Lightning strikes.
Lightning strikes, that's exactly what they're called. They did a great job with the set.
Where was that actually?
The Pantages Theater.
Pantages, that's right. In Hollywood, yeah.
They just don't like to show how they feel, you know? What?
If only there were real clubs that were that cool. You made a better club than what really exists.
Yeah, whatever you say, Dan. Look, it's really smoky in here. I'm going to go outside, get a bit of air.
And then I remember we wanted to get, on the big giant video screen, we wanted to get sort of images of animals mating to sort of, you know, inspire her.
Excuse me.
You know, I see Peter Medak every now and again at the gym. He works at the same gym.
Oh, yeah? How's he doing?
He's a sweetheart. He's doing fine. He's, you know, going on about his business, directing. He's always working. He's never in town. He's off doing stuff. He shoots stuff over in Europe and in Canada quite often. Peter being the director of Species 2.
Oh, yeah, I've met him. Nice guy.
Really nice guy.
I haven't seen Species 2.
This is great.
Sure.
I don't think I've ever seen Forrest give a false moment in anything that he did. He's just, there's no pretense about what he does.
2 weeks ago, I just went to Guild Award for makeup this year, and Natasha was the master of ceremonies.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is that, like it or not, Species of the movies will always or has yet to be the one that defines Natasha. I mean, when they're selling something else, it's like the girl from Species.
Right.
We'll need the helicopters.
This was fun.
This was fun. This was, this was a lot of drama to shoot all this stuff.
This was if I have 2 helicopters, I've got 10, but I'm still only seeing 2.
We've got 3.
Are there 3?
Well, there's one shooting.
Shooting everything.
And all of this was lit by the helicopters.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
right.
was. I'm sure we had a lot of irate neighbours in the neighbourhood because all of the lighting for all of this stuff is all lit by the helicopters flying low over the top of us at night.
Oh, they are flying low.
In one of the shots, you could actually see it chopping some of the trees.
Really? Was this before or after the Twilight Zone incident?
No, this is way after.
Yeah.
Was it?
And you can see in that shot, there's a shot with Molina. You can see how much we were throwing the tow vehicles around to, get the idea that they were going fast. And in fact, a couple of the vehicles ran off the road. You remember?
Yeah.
There's one there.
This one ran off the road.
Lucky break.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember doing all this stuff. This was fun.
I don't know if Malisa's ever forgiven me for getting her into this movie. The reason that she was in the movie was that we'd cast somebody who didn't turn up on the set that night. Or somebody. No, in fact, I think what had happened was she'd been scheduled for the wrong night, and so we had to shoot, and Malisa was my assistant, and she got cast because the actress didn't turn up.
Whom you've since married.
Now, however, we got permission to do this in Elysian Park in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
I have no idea, Frank. I don't know who did the talking, but somebody did.
At the time, the office of the city was actually pretty cooperative because they sort of went out on a limb letting us do this.
Block the road in both directions.
It's always, whenever you do something like that, there's always this huge sigh of relief when everybody gets out. They're all safe. They're all okay.
Yeah, well,
we haven't burned anything
nothing
down.
could have gone wrong because we had so much, firefighting equipment around us, but to the uninitiated, it might have looked like a gamble. I think.
Yeah.
Found what looks like a severed thumb in the pocket of one of the doors that got ripped off.
Here, let me see that.
She may have caught it in the door trying to get out.
Once again, all of the lighting here is, done with lighting up on top of cranes, and then the helicopter sounds are put in. Because one of the problems about shooting at night is, what's supposed to light it?
Right.
So you're always looking for bright ideas that sort of feel real.
I don't think so.
I thought Zemeckis' solution for Castaway was really clever. It was a little different night, wasn't it?
It was. It's a good way
got a really interesting look. Well, I mean, the getting out to the location part kind of demanded that they do it that way, but it gave it a really interesting look.
And now, of course, with digital technology, day for night would be the only way to do it. You can really crush down the colours and change things, and you can do whatever you like. And
Get her this way. Not that easy.
You sound like you're going to miss her.
Yeah, well, I guess I will. I think I respected her.
I've killed him in 3 films now.
Alfred?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dead Man with Johnny Depp, this film, and now I suppose I shouldn't say the last one. It'll give it away now, Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's a fabulous actor.
He really is. And he's just such a joy to work
Oh,
with.
Good
God,
guy.
I mean,
What a good. I mean, this whole cast all got along, which made it easy,
And I think when the cast enjoy working together, it shows.
Yeah, I think the general vibe of a film set always comes through in the final product, no matter what. From my experience, it has. It's why comedies made by miserable bastards are never funny.
So do you have a girlfriend in New York?
Well, I guess I've had a few, but they don't hang around very long. I guess I keep too many secrets.
You want to share one with me?
Right now?
Well, I know what you do, and it doesn't scare me.
Oh, really?
No.
Well, it does most people.
I wouldn't want to never see you again.
Hey! Whoa, what are you... I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought you were somebody else. I'm sorry.
You okay?
I thought it was her. I thought it was Phil. I saw the blonde hair.
She's dead.
We shot this in the Biltmore Hotel, didn't we?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
The Biltmore is used for many things. In fact, I used it in 13 days for the Democratic Convention, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want this job to be over.
It's one of those locations that, has been in many, many, many movies.
Thanks for the dance.
It's downtown LA, and it's a beautiful hotel.
Yeah.
This scene coming up, I think speaks to what a talented actor Forrest is. It's not easy to be convincingly drunk, just that little bit tipsy.
Right.
He really pulls it off. And when you look at it, even without the sound, he just looks like he's had one too many. These guys look like they're enjoying themselves.
Maybe he was method acting.
Natasha looks pretty good with dark hair, too.
Yeah,
Yes,
Natasha
she does.
looks pretty good anyway.
Smells nice. Can I try some?
Help yourself.
Is that a wig or was her hair actually dyed and cut?
I think it was a wig.
Yeah.
Does it work on your boyfriend?
Yeah, as a repellent.
I don't know. I think he's in remarkably good shape for a man his age.
This is the elevators of the Biltmore.
One Long Island iced tea.
I like these cups of tea. Wait, it's great. Wait.
I think what was ultimately nice about the way this group worked together was there was never a conscious let's cast a certain types, let's do this, let's just go out and find the best performers that we can find and put in these bodies. And I think it really helped the movie tremendously to not be forced into any kind of stunt casting or anything, that they really let us make the movie we wanted to make.
She still wants to see you, though.
Maybe I'll go find out if you're right about that.
One of the things I love about Andrei Bartkowiak's lighting is, as soon as you're into this location, it's obviously a set because you can't film inside an elevator because it's too small, but it looks completely like it's an interior of the previous the two shots go together flawlessly.
I like your perfume.
You do? Thank you.
Excuse me, get out here.
So the other key people working on this film, Conrad Buff, the editor, great guy.
Just the fact that he had the familiarity with Edlund and his work and everything just made all that so much easier. His communication with them back and forth, getting the shots, how much we needed. We need 2 frames more of this, and he was just invaluable.
Did he get the Oscar for Titanic?
Yeah, I believe he did. Chris Young, who really was, did
a great job.
Conrad Buff introduced me to him. He'd done Jennifer 8 with Conrad Buff, and I loved the music for that movie, and I think that's why I was keen to have him on board.
John Muda did a really good job with production design.
Yeah, this is a set once again, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Very convincing set.
It's really good.
Good set and well lit.
Housekeeping.
Dan. Those two over there. Bet they like unusual men like us.
Women think I'm strange. I don't feel well.
Be silly. Just go over there and talk to him.
I have to go. And I think you should live with me, okay?
Well, I'm going to stay for a while, actually.
Okay.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Housekeeping.
Hi.
Hi.
I couldn't help noticing sitting over there, I was wondering what two very intelligent, glamorous-looking women were doing without dates. Oh, my name's Stephen Arden, by the way. I teach comparative anthropology at Harvard.
Oh, I lived in Boston once.
Yeah?
For a year. Froze my butt off.
Kind of cold in Boston.
This is Bill Antoni. I forget your name. Stand up.
How did you get in here?
I stole the key.
What?
I saw you downstairs, but you're with all those people. So I thought I'd come up and wait.
Well, but this kind of thing doesn't usually happen to me.
I love his dialogue. It was very nice. Enjoyed it very much.
This kind of thing doesn't happen to me.
Yes.
Oh, yes. What about protection? Come on.
Someone's at the door.
Who's there? Press. Laura. Dan, I gotta talk to you. Oh, Christ. What does he want? What's the problem, Dan?
I just got this terrible feeling. I just got this strange thought. You know, I got this image of Syl with Art. Syl's next door with Art and Press.
No. She dead, Dan.
You should understand, I got real upset. So I went to his room, and there's somebody in his room with him.
Did you knock on the door?
I knocked on the door, but I don't know what she'll do to him, you know? All I know is that they're making a lot of noise in there. Down to 6. And I know it's Syl, Press. I know it's Syl. I know it.
Okay, I believe you. I'm gonna get dressed.
So, this scene, do you remember how we did the special effects on this?
This one here was, we basically shot the plate, and it was kind of a closed set, and basically shot the plate separately. I mean, this was an extremely difficult track because she's moving in 3 dimensions, and we had we had little tracking marks on her back, but they weren't of very much help because the camera was moving and everything. So it was a lot of trial and error.
The way I remember it was
exactly.
the real, difficult thing to do was to make these things that pop out of her back look like they really are part of her back.
Right.
To make them feel like they're locked in.
Yeah, here we go.
Right.
And
like
have really grown from
series of
her and
Bowie
not just
knives.
stuck on.
And the other great thing about it is, I mean, she's really selling this. I mean, she's really selling this whole thing about, the seed being planted and everything's going on and it's all good. And in the meantime, this guy's about to be torn apart.
Yeah, that's such a shocker because you really like this guy.
Remember
this shot?
Yeah,
Oh my God,
I remember
that.
that.
That was a performer wearing a suit in both of the
And then
shots
there
so
was
far.
like one of those famous 3-frame shots where the leg disappears behind the wall.
Well, she
And you could have shot this with a extremely expensive, monster running down, but that was more more effective. It's a classic example of less is more.
And this sort of moment forward sort of like drives the rest of the movie because now they think that she's pregnant, and now all of a sudden we got twice as much trouble, and we got to get going, and it really becomes the impetus for the rest of the movie.
Fire doors can only open from the inside of the back.
But I mean, I think that moment when she was with him, on top of him, she really sold that so incredibly well.
Yeah.
They both did. I mean, to be honest, it wasn't easy for both of them to pull that scene off.
Although if I were him, it'd be easier for me.
I prefer that sort of stuff, with not spectators.
I'm not sure I understood how you did the effects, Richard. I think we should roll back and watch that scene again.
Well, that's the beauty of TV.
TiVo.
That's right.
That door that she's supposed to have blasted through, the metal door, I believe we made it out of lead, and
that's right.
Make it soft and malleable and make it look like something really had gone through it. The trick for me was to find locations that we could make it look like they had, that one followed onto the other without going like, well, how the heck did we get here?
Right.
So this is not a set.
No, this is real. Well, everything you've seen so far has been real.
You kind of prefer that, don't you, Roger, to be in a real situation?
If you're in a real situation, I mean, not so much sets because, you make your sets so they do look real. But, one of the things about shooting in real locations is that, there are sort of confines to how you do it because, you can't move walls and, so you have to get sort of clever about how you shoot it.
Right. Especially if you're doing this kind of movie, because this kind of movie has its own special requirements. Like Steve said, in a scene like that lab scene, we got 20 guys underneath, with rods pushing and pulling. You can't do that in sets.
No, this was a set.
I mean, you can't do this in a live location.
Real situation, yeah.
Here's where we sort of go to the set.
Flamethrower was real.
Yeah.
And these tunnels were sets.
And this was kind of tense too, because this is getting towards the part of the movie where the digital puppet starts playing a more active role in the movie, and so it was trying to figure out how that was all going to look. Could it be okay? And you never really knew until the end what it was going to look like. Because
And then there were different ideas for the end. They showed up too at the last one too. So we wound up redoing the end a couple of times.
You know, I really liked what John Muto did with these sets, because he managed to get the water in there, and he really did.
Yeah, this doesn't look like.
He really did help me a lot create stuff that would help the movie build up the suspense towards the end.
Think about it, for Christ's sake, you're supposed to have some extrasensory powers that can tell us.
And then lighting it, of course, was a challenge as well, because these were, you couldn't move things easily here.
It's hard to hide lights in the tunnel.
So we made a lot of use of the lights that they're holding.
You don't fucking know, do you? You don't fucking know. I'm going this way. You come with me. Come with me, damn bitch.
Uh-oh, they're splitting up. That's not a good thing.
Always a bad sign in these movies.
You go that way.
And then, uh-oh.
Dan?
Obviously a moment where music would be playing a big helping hand.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something just amazing too. You see Ben Kingsley walking through with this kind of flamethrower or gun kind of deal, and he's just not the kind of thing that
this is not your Gandhi.
Right. That's not what you thought that he would do. And the fact that he sort of bought into this and brought his gifts to this, the way that he did, I just really think just helped us hugely as far as the rest of the movie.
Remember this makeup day? Remember the day
when we ripped his face off?
Man,
that's right. There's our girl in the suit.
There's a
I
quickie.
think. Yeah, the puppet. But that is funny.
That's the last
ripping Gandhi's face off.
Well, and I remember, he was very conscious of the sort of horror of it, and didn't want anybody to see the makeup on until we were filming.
Mm-hmm. Remember that? There he is. His lips are gone. I do remember that.
She's that way.
Was he your first choice, Roger?
I don't remember how the casting came about, but I know that if there were other thoughts, that once we had this cast, that this was the dream cast.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love this shot.
Yeah, that's our puppet again. That's crazy.
Yeah,
full
I
body
love this shot because again, it just shows you enough without sort of going into super detail without saying. It's like one of my favorite shots of the movie.
So and it was a lot of work for you, Steve, to pull it together to make it all move, and then we had to film it so that there was enough there to sell the idea, and it had to move so you knew it was sort of real.
Mm-hmm. There it is again.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, these are classic uses of actual on-set, animatronics.
The girl in the suit.
Yeah.
Dana something. Forget her last name. She was a kung fu artist.
That's right. And then we had a great, a way to put the ripple underwater, which was a board that was sort of pulled underwater to make it look like something was swimming along.
Must have opened up during the earthquake.
The sewer monster lurks within. Oh, fire, my favorite thing.
Yeah, that was, what was that?
Wow.
That was pregnancy.
That's right.
How did we do
that?
That
was a full body puppet again.
Yeah,
we shot
body
this in
puppet.
post, though, after the ending was changed slightly when you see her birth the baby. I was real happy with how this turned out. This whole scene is shot well,
No,
edited well. The performance is good. It looks really good here.
This is the real unit.
But we took our basic full body puppet and just cut it apart and re-rigged it to burrow the baby through the chest.
I mean, it's very convincing stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, the guys did a really good job on it. Eric Fiedler did all the engineering and animatronics.
Translucence.
However, I also remember though that there were days that things didn't go as well as we had hoped because well, just because but because it's so things can go wrong with so much stuff that just has to turn up on the set and work. So it can be very frustrating too
And the
for
thing is,
everybody,
absolutely,
you included.
When you see dailies, there's so much unusable stuff. You have to yank out the gems.
This is our way of saying here's where the rest of the movie is going to take place,
So the idea of it was that there were these caves beneath Los Angeles, sort of full of bitumen and oil. And
If she comes back through here, let her have it.
Man, I remember this being like one of the roughest sets in the world to work on.
Well, it was really hard because it was vast.
There was nothing. There was
Not only
nothing
that,
was
but I
flat,
remember the
for one
smell every time with all the fire and everything. It was just like
Take me back.
Yeah, it was. I remember going, and just constantly every night, just feeling like you've just been drugged.
And this stuff was out at the end of the movie. We had it full of oil.
It took us
smoke
years
all the
for our
time.
lungs to clear after this.
Yeah.
We were running out of time. The film was, getting pushed for. We were getting close to having to deliver. And the baby.
There's the baby.
That was good. That was tough too. Because the child was very small and couldn't.
Well, that was where we use warps to make this happy little baby look like a vicious monster. Pretty fun, and shoots out the old tongue.
Yeah, that was a classic. I remember that in the first preview that we had. And I knew that we had
But it's like shots like this here. Just showing enough of it to
That's
get the
the
idea.
real baby, right?
That's the real little boy.
And he's still.
Yeah.
And then the rats.
I mean, and everybody's afraid for the baby, right? They say, "Oh, this rat's going to hurt the baby," and look what's going on, and they're starting to get grossed out by the fact that that we're going to let this rat hurt this baby, and
but they're never in the scene together.
No.
But the audience.
You feel like they are.
Yeah.
Right.
It's still surprising.
That was
Oh, that's all.
Real
I love that too.
It's
That's
the inside.
great.
We made an oversized one for.
Yeah. How did we do the spearing of the rat?
That was
just
that
a
was a
sharp
CGI tongue.
Yeah, but the insert of it being stabbed was just a sharp
real.
moment
That
when we
was-
stabbed a little dummy rat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
It only
shocking.
takes
No
like,
one
a
expected
quarter
that at
of a
all. It's
second
really
to stick in the mind.
That's right.
It did get a good reaction. I
Oh, remember that? People were screaming.
Should have had the tail being sucked up at that last moment.
Like the last piece of spaghetti.
Just hanging out of Corey's mouth.
Was it Peter?
But we had very little film to work
Oh,
with
here it
here. We
comes.
shot mega amounts of film to get what we got.
That was pretty
Remember,
good.
because it was not easy, to get the boy to, have his mouth open and look sort of fierce. And
Well, he couldn't. I mean, all
Because he
that
was
was
a happy
done with
little
elastic
baby.
reality. That was the kid was just.
Now
sitting
remember
there.
this.
This is great.
Yeah. Now, this is added on.
I remember. Well, that was pretty
So
successful.
it's actually a split screen.
How did that special effect work?
Oh,
Here's our digital
full
character.
digital 3D boy
Baby
Sil.
monster.
He's an ugly bugger.
Now, obviously, the reason why you go from digital to
That
puppets.
was all digital though.
Yeah.
Those characters.
I just
Is
remember
that-
how difficult it was to
And there's their digital.
There's our digital still. Obviously, these big gross movements preclude you from using anything puppet-wise, and this is the time to say to the audience.
So this is all done with 3D.
Right.
With 3D animation.
This you just couldn't do for real. So
right.
So this is.
And this is all stuff that Roger directed, on our stage at Boss, and then she runs right up to camera.
And those big close-ups are the thing that sort of give everybody the massive headaches.
And they match Steve's unit pretty well.
And there's
then her little Janet Jackson. Wish she had one of those.
Exactly.
And those are all the real puppets again being intercut.
Yeah, I mean this is when it starts to get fun because now we're using everything, and and it's about, and the fire allows us, from a lighting point of view, to sort of play around with how everything looks.
There's stuff like that. Just the chopping off of the tendril was, that was you, I guess, Steve, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The end shot that we'll get to was designed from a completely different angle. But the thing is, in the digital world, these are all digital characters here. In the digital, that's a good one.
This is good. This is also this is part of the
digital one. But
for some reason
you can move the camera around anywhere, and we found another plate that we just happened to have, and so that end shot was like which we'll see in a minute.
This is great. I like that. This is.
Save that guy. He's too good.
Yeah, he ain't gonna die. He's a good guy.
So he has to keep him alive to do that.
So the hand grabbing the foot was real, and then the
the
all this stuff was digital.
I remember too. I mean, the interesting thing about doing something like this with Michael Madsen, who's a guy who sort of prides himself on being, extremely tough, and I don't get.
Oh, there was a high-speed blow-up,
That was
high-speed shot. Steve built it, and we blew it up.
Yeah.
There, this shot.
Look at that.
That was designed from
explosion.
a completely other angle.
I thought you drank your last Long Island iced tea there, Dan.
Yeah.
And now it's all quiet.
Was that fire always practical, or was that enhanced?
We had practical fire, didn't we?
We had practical fire, but I think
Which
we were
was no
actually
mean
enhancing
feat
it
because
by
it was all internal in the studio,
we were
and oh my
stealing
God.
pieces from one place to put it in.
It really was awful to work in that space.
I think this stuff here was added in, Steve.
I think I was coughing black stuff off for a month. Really.
Well, this was my baptism by fire into the world of special effects. And what it did, it gave me enormous respect for any movie at all that's got great special effects. I mean, seeing what they've done with the Lord of the Rings, boy, knowing firsthand how difficult all these things are, you have to.
And the budgets have gone from $5 million.
Well, that's
for
the other thing.
effects
A
to
lot
50
more money,
million.
but you know what I mean. It's like it's not easy to do it well, and it takes an enormous amount of
He's bringing home
creativity
a
and
sausage to the wife there.
lateral thinking, and
Yeah.
that's what's I think the joy of special effects is just to see how clever people can really be. To make things look simple, things look just totally straightforward and believable.
Right.
Well, if it's so joyful, how come you haven't made an effects film since?
It was all that smoke in his lungs.
There's an oversized rat. That I would have to agree with you on
rat.
that.
It was a fake rat.
Oversized rat.
And
tongue
I'm not
everywhere.
sure if it still doesn't look a little fake.
It does. I remember specifically that we had 6 days to make that. So
I know.
Don't give me a hard time.
No, there were no second takes, that's for sure.
Well, it was fun.
Yeah. I mean, this was really looking back at it again, it really was fun to do this.
It was fun to do. I think for me, part of the fun was just that I had a really great bunch of actors to work with, and you guys were very sympathetic to the sort of what we were trying to do, and for me, it was a really it was just great to do what I always love to do, and that's to learn something out of every movie you make. And for me, this was a big learning curve about how special effects work.
I think it was a big learning curve for all of us.
Yeah.
It really was.
I mean, it's kind of neat when you have the opportunity to stretch yourself and to take something that like Steve knew about the prosthetics and Richard knew about all the digital stuff, and how do you say, okay, let's slam these two things together, and really see and take the same character and present them in a multiple, variations, a girl in a suit, an animatronic puppet, and a digital character, and make it all feel as though it's the same character. I mean, that's. That was the challenge of the movie. Getting Natasha to sell was part of the challenge of the movie, and then I really think that it was pretty successful all in all, as far as being able to meld all those different ideas.
It's interesting because you work with all kinds of different directors, Roger, and every director's got his style and way he wants to do things, and that's what drove us to develop this digital puppet system. And we had the right people. We had the kind of people that could think in these absurd terms, that could develop the kind of technology virtually overnight.
Yeah. Well, I remember you were programming the computer program that you were doing this motion capture with as we were doing it, really.
Exactly. Well, that gave you the opportunity to see the character doing the moves that you would like to see. And then when we finally got that, and we then nuanced that with a little bit
Jim Rigel, didn't he go on to do Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, Jim was my senior visual effects digital guy.
Yeah.
To see all the names roll up in the credits, because I mean, this was like a family.
Yeah.
Software
and
research
people
and
don't
development.
realize how many
I remember
people
all of these guys.
I mean, the people. There are like 100 people that worked on this movie, and they work on it longer in a lot of cases than the production crew, So there's a lot of complexity in this stuff.
Yeah, boy, it is a trip down memory lane, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.